I'm going to show you exactly how I made $20,000 shorting gold. I'm going to show you exactly step by step, higher time frame to lower time frame. Then I'm going to show you the actual profits on the account. So let's get straight into it. Took this trade on the 5 minute, but very first of all, on the weekly, what I'd noticed, because I go from the top all the way down to the bottom, on the weekly is that we were at this triple high point here. This was the previous weekly candle. So the two previous candles had wicked into it. And then the one the week before, so I took the trade in this week here. In the week before, which was this one, we tapped all the way in, come all the way back down, bearish body, leaving that long upper wick in the zone. So I'm already thinking rejections to the downside. That's what the weekly is initially telling me. Then I go over to the daily, and what do we have? Well, we can see that the candles prior, I took the trade in this day here. So if I take it back to there, you can see that in the one candle prior, price had pushed in again to this zone, and then we'd had another, just like that weekly. This candle here, the previous data when I took the trade, looks exactly the same as the weekly candle from prior. So long tap into the zone, all the way back down, closes bearish. Two rejections of this point here. Firstly on the weekly, then the daily. Two higher time frame complemences right there that we are going to reject this 2040 point right here. Before I get into the good stuff of the lower time frames, if you want to know exactly how I trade this exact strategy, visit the link in the description for my course. I do outlooks every day. That's everything I know on how I actually trade. So the higher time frame is so simple. We're looking at rejections to the downside. Now we can start to look more detailed at what happened in the previous US session before I took the trade. So I took this trade at 2 p.m. on the 11th of the 5th. What happened on the 10th of the 5th during US? Well, what we did was we were pushing to the upside like this. We were pushing up, pullbacks. We then at 1, so when the market opened, we had a strong push into this high time frame zone that we were talking about. Very, very strong push to the upside. I'm just going to remove that for now, just so you can see more clear. And then what happened from that one push? Well, we came all the way back down to the downside like that, breaking below this low in here. As soon as we broke that low, it was confirmed that all bullish market structure had been corrected, and we had then moved bearish. Because we'd gone up like that, we then had a drop which broke below that low there, indicating that we were going to continue a move to the downside going into the next day. Because the previous day was bearish, after having that big move, corrected all of that, an even bigger move to the downside, that is bearish lower time frame market structure. So the previous day's US session already told us that we were potentially going to go down in the next day. And the 4 hour as well, if I just get rid of everything on there, the 4 hour as well, you can see just highlights that push up all the way straight back down from that higher time frame zone right there. I've now skipped it half an hour into the US session on the 11th, and at 1:30 was PPI data. That's inflation data for the US. So there's no entering trades before this point. So I was waiting till 1:30 to see if I could then get an entry to the market. But now I'm going to show you something on the 1 hour. So from this point, this is where we were. And what I was looking at was what previous US zones do we have around this price? Well, what you can see is that on Tuesday the 9th and also on Friday the 5th, which is the last two times the US has traded this point, before we pushed above in the previous day. We did that fake out in the previous day of this lone US zone right here. We did this US zone. So this is the zone I'm looking at. It's a strong one. From, you can see, from one US session, two US session, then we did the fake out, and now we're back in it. So with the 5 minute, we're just below the zone. Already in the US session so far, we've pumped down. But there wasn't an entry because we don't enter before the 1:30 news comes out, because it's only halfway into the session. It doesn't get enough time for us to actually catch a move. So now I was waiting for the PPI data to come out, and I was looking to sell from this zone. And here's what the first 5 minutes did. So it pushed into the zone, came all the way back down. And from that point, you may be thinking, okay, that's a rejection. We've also rejected the Asian high point as well after a little break above. Now, you may be thinking, can you enter there? Now, I didn't, because for me, the data was slightly bullish for gold. It wasn't massively bullish, but it was slightly bullish. So I didn't want to enter from that point. But I'm going to show you what happens. It ranges to the side until 2. And at 2 is when a lot of volume comes in, half an hour before NYSE. It's a new 4 hour. And in this 4 hour right here, I was watching it, and I've seen we'd rejected this zone so many times now. There's clearly no bullish momentum that is actually going to break us. So the bearish momentum must be stepping in at some point. And this first 5 minutes of the new 4 hour was a strong rejection of that zone. So from that point, I was just looking to sell to the downside. So from this candle here, I took a sell to the downside. My stop was just above the zone up there. And then my target, the next US zone, was down in there. However, what my plan was just to hold this until the end of the session, because I thought I can catch a big move here. Got lots of movement to the left to correct. So my idea was just, I'm going to hold until the end of the session. But from this point here, I will 100% be at break even. And by this point, it was already 2:05. So 25 minutes until the New York Stock Exchange opened. 2 p.m. is when a lot of volume comes in. We'd had the data, we'd had the initial spike in bullish volume, but there clearly wasn't any bullish volume left. We were at this key US session zone that we've seen not only once, if I just go onto the hourly again, not only once did we see it here. So draw it out, make it a bit clearer for you. We saw US there, we saw US there. We then had the fake out up above, came all the way back down in. And now we're there again, looking for that big move to the downside. And you can see already from the hourly candle exactly what happened. So we dropped, smashed way through. From this point here, I was break even, and then I just let this play out until the end of the session. It did the break and retest, so I was expecting a massive drop, but unfortunately it didn't drop, and I just ended up closing out towards the end of the session around that point there for about a 1 to 4.8 risk to reward. And you can see the profits I'm going to show you right now. So it's a very clean trade, just completely going off technicals, off the higher time frame, all the way down to the lower time frame bias. It could have been a bigger trade, but it was still a massive trade in there. And here is the account.
So here you can see the trade. These ones here, they were just an early London trade I was testing. These are the actual trades. You can see it was 2 positions. It was 2 5 lots equaling 10 lot there, which came out to about 21k. You can see if I just show you the account. It's a real MetaTrader 5 live account in there. So very, very nice day overall. But the main 2 trades I was showing you about were these 2 here, which came out to about 21k.